Once again, good morning. I mentioned that we take the opportunity to educate our students and parents about our LaSallian heritage, so I take advantage of the opportunity to be with you this morning and share a little bit about our heritage with you. So this morning I'd just like to share a little bit about the life of our founder. Perhaps if your son has read the biography of De La Salle, you maybe read it along with him, so you would find some of this familiar. But I'd also like to point out a little bit about the presence of the brothers in our world today, and some interesting history about this place where your son comes to school every day. So if this is not your eldest son and you've heard this before, I apologize that you're sitting through it again, but I find that every time you hear it, you hear something a little bit different. So thank you for indulging me. St. John Baptist De La Salle was born April 30th, 1651 to a very wealthy family. His father, Louis De La Salle, his mom, Nicole Moet, as in the champagne, which should be an indicator of the wealth that they enjoyed. He was born in Reims, France, and he was the eldest of 7 brothers and 3 sisters, and they indeed lived in a mansion right near a cathedral. The state of education in France in the mid-1600s was such that there were few schools, and in those schools the teachers were poorly trained. Most children, in fact, played in the streets and learned a trade from artisans in the shops to prepare for their futures. Privileged children were educated in their homes, and that was the case for De La Salle until he was 10. At that time, he went to a formal school called the School for Good Children, which interestingly admitted only boys, ages 9 through 18, and impractically all subjects were taught in Latin. De La Salle felt a calling to the priesthood and was appointed canon at his cathedral at the young age of 15. By 18, he was sent to study theology at the famous Sorbonne University in Paris. On his off days there, he would organize games in the streets for the abandoned children. And at the conclusion of the games, he would assemble them for religious instruction. By 21, both of his parents passed away, so he had to return to Reims to care for his younger brothers and sisters. Upon his return there, he befriended Nicolas Roland, who sought De La Salle's help in running a school for girls, and this was De La Salle's first experience in formal schooling as a leader. By 26, De La Salle had become a priest, and in his early ministry, Adrien Niel asked De La Salle to help him open a school for boys. He asked De La Salle because Niel had the money and De La Salle had the experience of running a school, so together they made a good team. In my mind, it's the first example of the president-principal model. He had the financial backing, and De La Salle had the academic experience. The school opened, but like the others, the teachers were poorly trained. Right off the street, as a matter of fact. So De La Salle took it upon himself to offer them some help. He rented a house and had them move into the house, but invited them over to his own home for meals so that he could give them some pointers to improve their instruction. What he discovered is that mealtime was insufficient because of the amount of assistance they needed. So he decided to move them into his own home. Of course, this represented a tremendous clash of classes between these teachers and his brothers and sisters accustomed to a life of wealth. It got so bad that eventually his brothers and sisters moved out and he was living in the home with his teachers. The school began to experience some problems, and it looked like it might even fail. And De La Salle said, we have to have the faith, we have to keep pushing. And the teachers said, easy for you to say, if this fails, you have all this money to fall back upon. Where are we? So as a sign of unity with them, he gave it all up and joined them and made a heroic vow. And at that time, those men and De La Salle decided that they would be brothers big brothers to their students and brothers to one another, and further, that they would not become priests so as not to be distracted by the duties of a priest, but instead to invest themselves entirely to the education of the young people entrusted to them. Well, they eventually experienced some success, and word of their outstanding school began to spread. A pastor asked De La Salle to open another school near where he lived in Paris. De La Salle agreed and repeated the model, renting a house, moving the teachers in together, and again experienced success. By 1700, the community of brothers grew, and schools were opening all over France. De La Salle would visit each one of them, traveling by foot if necessary. He did that in order to instill the importance of relationships in his school. And hopefully you recognize that that is still a hallmark of the Christian Brothers experience. Though they continue to face difficult times, the Lasallian mission has endured. De La Salle died in 1719, and at that time there were 100 brothers, 20 schools in France, 1 in Italy, and he was canonized a saint, by the way, the patron saint of all teachers, in 1900. Today, the Christian Brothers are present in 80 countries throughout the world. The Lasallian family has approximately 5,000 active brothers and another 75,000 lay colleagues, such as Mr. Joubert and myself, in 1,020 communities like this one here at Christian Brothers. But they are not all like Christian Brothers. The brothers work in preschools, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, universities, vo-tech programs, orphanages, seminaries, and in programs for prisoners, drug addicts, and delinquents. Their work spans every class of society. For the brothers, the headquarters are in Rome, where the Superior General resides. He is the worldwide leader of the brothers. As you likely know, tomorrow the Superior General will be here. Once during a 7-year term, the Superior General continues the tradition of the founder and visits every Lasallian ministry in the world. So it's been about 7 years since he was last here. He's at De La Salle today. He will be with us tomorrow. And your sons will participate in a prayer service with him first thing in the morning, and then compete against him in a Jeopardy game in Lasallian heritage later in the day. So we're looking forward to that visit. For the brothers, the world is divided into regions. We belong to the United States Toronto region. Regions are further divided into districts. We belong to the New Orleans Santa Fe district, along with St. Paul's School in Covington and De La Salle High School. Archbishop Rummel High School is also a member of our district, but they are not owned and operated like we are by the Christian Brothers. They were invited by the Archdiocese to operate Rummel, and so they remain associated with the Lasallian mission. A brief history about this place. The house was first built in 1909 by Fred Bertrand on the Allard Plantation, at that time outside of the boundaries of City Park. By 1919, William McFadden purchased the home and turned the 5-bedroom, 2-bath home into the 42-room mansion that we know today. In 1938, Mr. McFadden moved his family to Fort Worth, Texas, but hung on to the property until 1942. As the story goes, this was his vacation home because he very much enjoyed Mardi Gras and the horses. So with our proximity to the racetrack, this was his vacation home. In 1942, he sold the property to City Park for $40,000, which, by the way, is less than we pay annually for rent. City Park leased it for 4 years to the United States Department of Agriculture and Forest Services. Sam Barth was the second tenant, moving in the early 1950s and beginning the renovation of home to school. Sam Barth moved into Metairie in the mid-50s, and the Christian Brothers began renting in 1958, continuing the renovations from home to school, and Christian Brothers was opened for the first time in September of 1960 to 93 boys in grades 5 through 8. And at that time, the school was staffed entirely by Christian Brothers. Over the past 51 years, the park has threatened termination of our lease in favor of commercial use of this property. However, because of the good work of the school, and let's just say the political support that the brothers have enjoyed, we have remained, and we now have the strongest relationship with City Park leadership than we ever had in throughout our history. So our lease currently exists to 2040. It is my pleasure to serve as leader of this fine institution and to be a member of the Lasallian family, along with Mr. Joubert, your sons, and you. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. At this time, I would like to invite Mr. Joubert to come forward to share a few words